Davengers. West Coast Davengers. Ah! Ah!
This is my name, it's David. This is my show, West Coast. If you don't like my singing, then you can go way. Welcome back to the West Coast Davengers. My name is Dave. I'm your host. This is a show about all things comics. I'm very passionate about comics, and I'm here to share that with you, along with a knowledge bomb. I will never say that again. Please do me a favor, hit the like button. Subscribe if you're not. Recommend this to a friend. Send it to your grandmother. I talk about the golden age of comic books as well. Tell your dad. Comic books aren't just for kids. If you're watching this, that means you stuck around through the tomfoolery. I'm going to talk about a big book that I just picked up. Something that I never thought I would see in person, let alone have the chance to buy it. But in with that, we'll come talking about one of my favorite comic book artists. And that is Erik Larsen. Erik Larsen was born in 1942 in occupied Japan. He came over here in 1974 and he met Todd McFarlane on a street corner. None of that is true. I actually don't know Erik Larsen's bio. But what I do know is that I first started seeing his work after he took over for Todd McFarlane on Amazing Spider-Man. I don't think it's a stretch to say that Erik Larsen is one of the most influential Spider-Man artists of all time, and one of the greats in the last 40 years. Taking over for Todd on 2 Spider-Man titles is a task enough. You have to follow in the footsteps of somebody that revolutionized the character. So what does Erik Larsen do? He kind of re-revolutionizes the character. I love Todd's Venom, but there are some days that I look at Erik's Venom and I think that's a far scarier Venom and a far more menacing Venom. One of the artists I think Erik influences, like one of the major things I see his work in, is if you look at Ryan Ottley's work in Invincible, and then, even more so in Spider-Man and also Hulk, you see a lot of Larsen in there mixed with the kind of manga style, which I think Erik Larsen is very influenced by that as well. One of Larsen's influences that I see is Walt Simonson, which is kind of a no-brainer. You look at Simonson, you just kind of see what Larsen was reading back before he became a full-fledged professional. Let me dive into the book that I picked up very recently. And that is, and some of you might have seen this on Sunday Sit Down, but this is Graphic Fantasy #1. Now, I know it doesn't look like a huge book. I know it doesn't look like something that's really that special, but let me tell you, 1982, published in Bellingham, Washington, about 3 hours north of here. Hey, Joe. Hey. Ajax Comics puts this out. This is Erik Larsen's first published artwork and also the first appearance of the Savage Dragon. Before he was known as Savage Dragon, he was just known as Dragon, and his actual name in the book is Paul Dragon. Graphic Fantasy is somewhere between a magazine and a Golden Age book. 72 pages. Supposedly 300 copies of this were printed, but they numbered 200 of them on back. This is 156 out of 200. Signed by Erik Larsen, Casey Keyes, and Al Harris. Al Harris and Casey Keyes are part of the publishing team and part of the creative team of this book. Let's take a look inside the pages of Graphic Fantasy #1. The first published art of Erik Larsen and the first appearance of Dragon, aka the Savage Dragon. So published in 1982. You've got 3 different characters represented in here. You've got Dragon, Ironhawk, and Prism, but we're just going to take interest in this first page. I love the fin, like the evolution of the fin. The fin looks so much cooler now than it did back then when it was just like a little bumpy fin. He does have a belt buckle that says D for Dragon. It's still cool to see this. It's all black and white. It's heavy action. His panel layout is kind of wonky, and I love it. You've got 4 panel here, you've got 5 panel here in some weird shapes, you've got this dude with his weird mer ears, and then it goes to that's a 7 panel page. This was pretty cool, this 1 page splash. So it's pretty interesting because if you read the first bunch of issues of Savage Dragon, it might even be the first issue or the second issue where his girlfriend gets killed. That's a rehashing of what he told here. That's a cool action shot. This to me looks like the blueprints of what Larsen would become. The way he used to draw some of his villains in the Savage Dragon run, and also the cybernetic Spider-Man arm and all that with the Deathlock team up. So I can see it there. Only a couple pages in, and now I'm really seeing it. I bet you this is this bus here. I bet you this is something that he saw growing up in Bellingham. Bellingham is where Larsen grew up, and it is the northernmost big city or town in Washington before you hit the Canadian border to Vancouver. Hey, look, Angel, my God. I'm actually gonna have to read this. I didn't feel like reading the entire text while I'm sitting here on the video with you. I just wanted to give everybody watching a little glimpse into the first appearance of Savage Dragon. They did reprint this like maybe 2 years ago, and so you can get a facsimile copy of this, which is printed on similar paper. I think it's like $20. So I need to pick one of those up for my own collection, but if you want to read it, just track one down. Larsen was a very big Kirby fan, and you can see a lot of Kirby in the faces here, and in the big fists and the oversized heads. It's very Kirby-ish. Oh, look at this. This is a cool one-page splash. Man, this is really making me want to like track down as many graphic novels from Savage Dragon as I can and just kind of try to read through it all. All right, and that was it right there. And then you get to Prism, which is inked and lettered by Larsen. So yeah, that was the first Savage Dragon story and the first published art by Erik Larsen. And so this page right here with the key and all the characters is referring to this. So this guy shows up in Savage Dragon. This is Mako. Mako shows up in Savage Dragon for sure. And I'm sure some of these other characters definitely do. So pretty cool. And there's the signed one. This needs cleaning and all that, but eventually I will have somebody professionally clean this part, and because I don't really have any intention to sell it anytime, so this will just stay raw. But I wanted to give you guys a look. Now back to the rest of the video. This book came my way via a comic book store in Kent, Washington called Page Turner Books. I had gone there a couple weeks ago with Dave. It had just come on the heels of that road trip where I'd spent a decent amount of money, and the price on this was $800, which rightfully so. I've never seen a copy of this go for below $1,000. Even these days, I know one recently sold, I believe, at $1,200. So I knew it was a good deal, but I just spent a bunch of money. I'd just been on the road for a while, so I didn't buy it. And I said to myself, I said to Dave, I said, if it's here the next time I come, then it's meant to be. A couple days ago, I was there, and the owner, I believe his name is Wayne, was there, and I asked him if he still had it, and he said, yeah. And so I said, oof, I asked him how much it was just to confirm again, and he said it's $800, but he's like, go on our Facebook. He's like, are you on Facebook? I'm like, no. He's like, just type in our Facebook, and he wanted to show me something, and they were having a 20% off anniversary sale. I bought this at 20% off, roughly around $650. This is a great deal. Something like this, the rarity factor has to play in. Now, Savage Dragon, if you're not familiar with the character, one of the original Image Comics characters, because Erik is a founder, and he brought that character in. It is still going today. The thing about Erik Larsen's Savage Dragon, Erik is the writer and artist on Savage Dragon from the first issue to the current issue. He's nearing the point where once he hits 300 issues, it's going to be the longest running with the writer artist as the same. I love Savage Dragon as a character. I never read past probably like the 25th issue. I went back and reread the first 5, and I still think it kicks ass. It's definitely an inspiration. When you think about Savage Dragon, there's definitely a piece of that inspired Invincible, which is Kirkman and eventually Ryan Ottley's collaboration. If we're talking in terms of pop culture, I think it's only a matter of time before, after the success of Invincible, Savage Dragon gets its day. I think it would work so great as an animated series because it is ultra violent and it's more of an R-rated book. It's still a testament to Erik Larsen's commitment and all over talent in the comic industry. Savage Dragon, here's the first issue. I recently bought a signed copy from our friends at the Bronze Age Batcave. Actually, it was on our live claim sale here on the channel. I loved it when it came out. I think it's pretty iconic in its own right for an independent character. Larsen has created with Savage Dragon this giant universe of characters, and the reason why I bring up Invincible too is he's crossed over with Invincible. They've shared characters. Super Patriot was definitely in the first 10 issues, even 15 issues of Invincible. There's some other Savage Dragon team-ups you might be aware of, including the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one, which happened in the 90s. I also just recently found a copy of Steve Gerber's Destroyer Duck teaming up with Erik Larsen Savage Dragon. So Larsen has always been open to collaboration with other characters from other universes, from other publishers, and I think that's a pretty big thing because you don't see that anymore. I can't tell you the last time I saw a crossover that felt cool, that was cool. Drop me some comments that have some crossovers that I might have missed. Long gone are the days of DC and Marvel crossing over. Image just didn't hit the mark when they crossed over with Valiant because nobody cared about Death Watch. The only thing good to come out of Death Watch was Gen 13 and one of the greatest Rob Liefeld covers, which is that Bloodshot Shaft one, which is Deathmate Red. I've been a fan of Larsen's for a long time, and I want to show this off. One of my favorite Wizard covers, that's Wizard 3, and you might see that image right here on my chest belly area. You know, the funny thing is, I found out recently that this wasn't the original cover, and apparently he whipped this up in like a day or so, or maybe even less. That's Wizard number 3. I just wanted to show off some of the iconic Erik Larsen Spider-Man books. We'll start with this one. This is Amazing Spider-Man 350, and I believe it was his last issue. Dr. Doom shows up, and it is a oversized issue. It's not double-sized. Some great art of Dr. Doom and Spider-Man going at it. My favorite thing about this book, and it's a little bit of a hidden gem, so you can thank me later, there's a gallery in the back pages of Larsen, and here's Larsen and Joe Sinnott doing Fantastic Four and Spidey. But more importantly, the very last page of story or / art, the hidden gem of Erik Larsen and Todd McFarlane doing a split pinup of Spider-Man. You get Spider-Man in the black costume, you get Spider-Man in the regular costume, Larsen doing the blue and red, and Todd doing the black costume. This is something that surprises most people. I'm not trying to diss on people, but there is a reason why there are so many people out there that say read your comics, because if you don't see this. You don't have to read every word if you don't want to, but flip through it because you're going to find some great stuff, hidden gems. We'll go with the two most iconic Erik Larsen Spider-Man covers. I don't even think it's a contest, but you have 346 and 347. These absolutely amazing Venom covers. The green slime and the tongue. Larsen has gone on record to say that that's how he had to differentiate himself from what Todd was doing. I think it works. It turned Venom even more venomous, because when you think about the word Venom, to me at least, coming to my mind is a snake. And, well, there's a very snake-like tongue there, and snake venoms. I remember really liking them when they came out, but they were never expensive. They were never really like put up there on a pedestal. And you look at where these comics are now, and you're talking about two of the most iconic Spider-Man covers to come out in 40 years. Larsen, man, I know some people don't appreciate Larsen, Bryce, but you know, I say you're wrong. You're so wrong. But art is in the eye of the beholder, and some people find Erik Larsen to be off, which I don't get it, but to each their own. And Erik went on to, create Savage Dragon and go from there. One of the little known gems also, well, it's not even little known, it's just very hard to find because it's low print run. He did a team up with Todd in the Spawn 265 range that they did, and they split the art duties almost completely down the middle. And there's some great covers, but my favorite cover is the Savage Dragon wearing Spawn's costume. I'll flash that one on the screen too. But it's funny because I know Erik's had a tumultuous relationship with Todd, but I think in the end they really are very symbiotic. I've only met Erik once, and he's very, very nice. I was at New York Comic Con in like 2012, 2013 before I moved out west. And I was walking around the Image booth, and he was just sitting there. And he was just talking to a kid who was showing him his portfolio. So I waited till they were done talking, and I asked Erik, I said, "Hey, Erik, nice to meet you." And I shook his hand. Fan of your work since I was a kid. And I asked him if he could do a head sketch, a quick little doodle of Venom. And he obliged. He was more than happy to. And I love it. I absolutely love the fact that I got a little head sketch of Venom from Larsen. That's the character that I loved when I was a kid, and it was like from McFarlane to Larsen. I absolutely love the way he does Venom. I love the way he does Spider-Man. You know, Spider-Man in Todd was creepy and arachnid, and I feel like what Larsen did, Larsen made him a little bit skinnier, and his eyes were bigger. As you could see, like the eye holes are bigger, and it just changed it just enough. He kept the spaghetti webbing, but the dynamic poses were different. When you look at the adjectiveless Spider-Man, which I should have pulled some of those, and I'll flash the covers on the screen. The Sinister Six stories that Erik Larsen did are some of the greatest action comics of the Spider-Man run that I can think of. And I apologize for not having those out here, but, you know, sometimes you forget things. I always wanted to do a little bit of a, Larsen episode and talk about my love for his art and, growing up admiring his art. But to get this as an adult, not knowing that this existed when I was a kid, and I've only known about this for maybe about 4 or 5 years, but it's so rare, not too many people know about it, and that's Graphic Fantasy #1. Now, if I can get a Graphic Fantasy #2, that'd be great. Not going to try and track it down, but who knows? It just might show up in my universe. It was published in my state, so stoked on that. I started a book club called the West Coast Davengers Book Club. I know, it's not really the most inventive idea. I'll just call it
West Coast Book Club. Davengers time.
The last Sunday of the month, on Sunday's Sit Down, we're going to be talking about the book that I asked people to read. And let's talk about the great stories of all time, and let's have fun. Don't forget, every Wednesday, West Coast Wednesday, my comic book auction and claim sale, and then Sunday Sit Down on Sunday. They're both on at 7 o'clock, Wednesday and Sunday. And please don't forget, like, follow, subscribe, yada, yada, yada. On the road to 2,000 subscribers. Let's hit that before the end of the summer. Let's hit that before summer starts. Fuck it, let's hit it right now.